Israel built a secret base in Iraq during this war with Iran, and the public has just found out about it. This is in the Wall Street Journal. Israel built and defended a secret Iran war base in Iraq. Israel set up a clandestine military outpost in the Iraqi desert to support its air campaign against Iran and launched airstrikes against Iraqi troops who almost discovered it early in the war, people familiar with the matter, including US officials, said. So Israel built the installation, which housed special forces and served as a logistical hub for the Israeli Air Force just before the war started with the knowledge of the US. The Israeli base was almost discovered in early March. Iraqi state media said a local shepherd reported unusual military activity in the area, including helicopter flights, and the Iraqi military sent troops to investigate. Israel kept them at bay with airstrikes, and the Iraqi government at the time condemned the attack, which left an Iraqi soldier dead. I remember this, where the Iraqi government said that they were attacked by the US, but it turns out it was Israel. This reckless operation was carried out without coordination or approval. The Lieutenant General Qais al-Muhammadawi, deputy commander of the Joint Operations Command, told Iraqi state media in comments about the attack in early March. So the Iraqis actually made a complaint to the United Nations where they said that the attack involved foreign forces and airstrikes, attributing it to the US. However, the US wasn't actually involved in this. It was the Israelis. So apparently the shepherd kind of made a report. Iraqi soldiers set out in Humvees and drove at dawn toward the site, and the group came under intense fire, killing one soldier and wounding two others. And then the Iraqi authorities dispatched 2 more units from the country's counterterrorism service to join a search of the area. It found evidence that military forces had been present in the area. And we now actually have, this is where, so now this is in Iraq, and the Israelis actually built a temporary airstrip that we can see over here, which is located in this area. It's pretty much a desert. There aren't many people that live there in that region. And we can see also a number of US aircraft carriers that were circling around this area across a number of days. And it seems like they were supporting the Israelis in creating that base over here. Now, if you think that's the only base that exists that Israel has, unknowingly to the government of that country, think again, because I'm sure they obviously have a couple of bases in the north of Iraq. 100% sure that they have bases in Syria, where Israel now controls parts of Syria with Turkey's parts. And Syria doesn't exist anymore, by the way. It's kind of different countries control different parts of that country that used to be called Syria, with the main party that controls it being ex-Al-Qaeda members. So you can imagine that Israel has a number of bases in this region to support the attacks that they've carried out against Iran. And of course, we all know about the US bases all around the Middle East. We also have reports that, this is in the Financial Times, that Donald Trump halted Project Freedom after Saudi Arabia withheld support. Project Freedom was this operation declared on last Monday to open the Strait of Hormuz by force, having US warships help cargoes transit, but it failed within 48 hours. They posed that. Apparently, it's because Saudi Arabia withheld support of allowing the U.S. bases in Saudi Arabia to be used to support that operation. So it says over here, Riyadh's decision not to allow U.S. warplanes to use its territory for Project Freedom was first reported by NBC News. Saudi Arabia has become increasingly frustrated with Trump's erratic handling of the war, during which Gulf states have borne the brunt of Iran's retaliatory strikes. It has joined other Arab states in cautioning Trump against going to war, urging Washington to pursue a diplomatic solution to the situation over fears Iran would lash out at the U.S. allies in the region. Saudi Arabia has condemned Iran's attacks on its Gulf neighbors and initially saw benefit in the U.S. and Israel degrading the Islamic Republic's missile and drone arsenal after the war began. But Riyadh has become concerned about Trump's unpredictability and lack of coherent goals. It was alarmed when he threatened to hit civilian infrastructure and destroy all of Iran's power plants amid worries that would elicit a more ferocious response from the Islamic regime. Now, we have reports that Riyadh has now lifted the suspension after a call between Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and U.S. President on Wednesday. So, this whole halt is now off the table, and the U.S. can use their bases in Saudi Arabia to carry out operations after this call between Salman Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and Donald Trump. I mean, truth be told, Saudi Arabia is the least Gulf country that is suffering from this war with Iran. And it seems like the UAE is on the other end of that spectrum. We can look at a graph I'm going to show you right now, which shows the production of oil throughout this period and how it compares to the 5-year average, also across the same months as this month, as these current months. These are for each country. The red is the 5-year average of oil production in millions of barrels per day. The green is the 2026, and here's like, when you see 1 month, 2 months, so January, February, March, April, and the purple is the range for the 5-year average, and the red is the average of that 5-year period. So you can see for Saudi Arabia, yes, it's gone down quite a bit, but we're talking still about just under 7.5 million barrels per day of oil being produced, and most of it is being exported because they don't need that much of that oil. When you compare that to the UAE, which you can see kind of a similar drop, actually a much larger drop here, but the numbers we're talking about, it went down from 3.56 million down to just under 2.2 million. So now the UAE is producing 2.2 million compared to Saudi Arabia, who's producing just under 7.5 million barrels per day. And the reason why there's a big difference is because Saudi Arabia has the Red Sea, where it can actually export from that area, so they don't have to do any shut-ins, they don't have to stop the production, the refinery, because they have another outlet from which they can export their oil, not from the Strait of Hormuz, unlike the UAE, which most of their exports go through the Strait of Hormuz. They have Fujairah, which is just beyond the Strait of Hormuz, but that has been attacked in the past week. Iran says we didn't do it, but I don't know who else would be doing that. See Kuwait. Kuwait's gone way down. Now they're not even. They used to do 2.5 million. Now they're doing looks like 0.75 million barrels a day. Iraq went down from 4.4 million all the way to now 1.6 million barrels a day. That's a big drop. Nigeria actually went up just by a bit. Algeria is above the average. So it used to be doing around 0.93 million. Now it's doing 0.98 million. Iran, this is an interesting one. Iran is doing above its 5-year average. It's actually producing more than what you used to produce on average for the past 5 years. And this is the interesting thing when they say that Iran, we're putting a lot of pressure on Iran with this blockade, U.S. blockade, sea blockade. Well, actually, Iran's doing much better than it was before the war from a revenue perspective, because not only are they producing more than their 5-year average, but oil prices are much higher. They're about 60% higher than before the war. And some of that oil that was seaborne, the U.S. unsanctioned that. It was an attempt to say, we'll reduce the pressure on the oil prices if we unsanction the oil at the sea, because then a lot of other people can buy it. But the reality is all that oil is going to China, nowhere else. And that's why you see Iran not in a hurry to get into a negotiated deal, because they're making actually more money than before the war. And that's why also you're seeing Israel pushes U.S. towards return to Iran war, destruction of energy infrastructure. Israel is pushing the U.S. towards a renewed war with Iran, focused on destroying the country's energy infrastructure amid rising tensions over the Strait of Hormuz and fears of a broader regional confrontation. Israel officials have conveyed a message to Washington that any future military campaign against Iran should include strikes on the country's energy sector, Israel's Channel 12 reported, citing what it described as an informed Israeli source. Even the Israelis know that this blockade isn't doing what Trump is saying it's doing, because one, Iran is bypassing, a lot of tankers are bypassing this blockade from Iran, carrying oil. Two, the idea was that because there's no storage facilities left in Iran because they're all full from the oil production, that Iran's going to have to actually stop producing oil, and that's going to permanently damage the oil wells, because to restart them, it's not just like pushing a button. When you extract oil, especially these, a lot of the oil wells in Iran, they're mature, low pressure. You have to insert water to get the oil out. And therefore, if you stop that process, water seeps into the pores. And when you get oil back out, it'll be mixed with water. So, you can't really, a big portion of that oil well will be unusable. So that was the idea that, 2 weeks ago that was supposed to happen, but Iran's finding other ways to export, such as bypassing the US blockade, finding other ways to store its oil, using ground passage to export its oil through Pakistan into China. There's many other ways, and therefore, it's likely to take 60 more days for these, so-called oil shut-ins to happen. And that's why they're not in a hurry. The Iranians, that is. Obviously, every day that this passes without a negotiated deal, oil prices for people, when they fuel their cars, are going to continue go up and up and up until we're going to reach a stage, if there is no conclusion on this, that we will have oil shortages at the pump. If this continues for another 4 weeks, Europe is going to be in real big trouble. And it's going to hit U.S. consumers too, because all of the fuel that they produce in the oil refineries in the U.S., they use Gulf imported oil for that. Even though the U.S. exports a lot of oil, they still import a lot of oil from the Gulf, because all of these oil refineries have been established based to process the Gulf oils. Not all oil is the same. So Gulf oil is different to shale oil, different to any other type of oil from another country. So these oil refineries in the U.S. can't just process any oil. They're built for Gulf oil. And there was another interesting thing that now the Iranians are doing, which is they're actually saying the cables, the communication cables under the Strait of Hormuz are now, because they pass through our territorial waters, you have to get a license to operate those cables. So these are unconfirmed reports. But so it says over here, we have obtained further information as Iran considers taking control over 7 undersea internet cables in the Strait of Hormuz. Details include, under the new policy, foreign operators would be required to obtain permits to use these cables. This would include paying fees and following Iranian law. All management and maintenance would be handled by Iranian companies. The IRGC has previously warned it could target these same cables. These cables are critical for data traffic between Europe, Asia, and the Gulf. So for the Iranians, Trump has given them so many deadlines, but he keeps on extending it because it's kind of becoming clear that he doesn't want to restart anything without having a knockout effect. He keeps on trying to, push the boundaries of what can America do. For example, with this Project Freedom, seeing how the Iranians are going to react, and then the Iranians react, but he says the ceasefire is still on. He really doesn't want to start anything before his meeting with Xi Jinping in China, which is scheduled for the 14th and 15th of May, which is next Thursday and Friday, because he's already postponed that meeting. And so he's not going to start a war and then go to China. He's going to want to go to China. And then when he comes back, he can restart the war. But we've said before, his opportunity to restart the war is diminishing because the weather's changing. It's getting hotter by the day. Having, all the equipment out there, having all the soldiers out there, having the U.S. aircraft operate, the operators, the people on those aircraft carriers, they've been there for a long time. And every day that passes, they're getting more tired. They're having less supplies. And so it's going to be more difficult to carry out an operation. Trump keeps on thinking that, the Iranians are going to fold, that they're going to give him what he wanted before the war started. But obviously now they have more leverage. Not only do they control the volume of oil coming out of the Strait of Hormuz, which is around 20% of all global oil, but now they're taking control over the sea internet cables. They're getting even more leverage by the day. And also at the same time, as oil prices start to kick in and there's going to be shortages, they're going to get more leverage even further. So the longer that the Iranians kind of continue this, the more leverage they have and the more pressure on Trump. But Trump is very hesitant right now because he does understand that the Iranians do have leverage and they can retaliate, unlike before the war started, where the Israelis told him, the government is weak and therefore there's going to be a revolution as soon as you kill the leadership, the people will rise. Didn't happen, ain't going to happen. And so Trump is stuck. If you did like this video, do hit the like and subscribe, and would love to know your thoughts about whether he's going to restart this war before he goes to China or after he goes to China, or is he even going to restart the war because he might get into a deal. It doesn't seem like he's going to get into a deal that's worse than the JCPOA, the Obama deal, but that's what's on the table now. So hard to see a path without escalation. Thank you very much.